Ma'am, we are good to go.
Great. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Tiffin Talks. I have with me Rituparna Chatterjee, the author of this quite remarkable memoir, The Water Phoenix, a memoir of child abuse, healing and forgiveness, published by Bloomsbury. You can see it here. Hi, Rituparna.
Hi, Kaveree. How are you?
Good. It's quite a moving memoir, as you know. You've written it. It takes you to a lot of dark places, but it also brings you to a lot of light, pretty much like the lamp behind you, I think. Uh, uh, you know, but it's very traumatic to read, and I wonder how traumatic it must have been to write it. So talk a little about that, and then we'll go on to other stuff. Where are you joining us from, Rituparna?
I live in California. I'm in Santa Clara. Sorry about the light. It's super early in the morning. It's
What time is it there?
uh, I'm up pretty early. It's 8:06 a.m. right now. So
Okay.
I don't know if it's a lamp or the sun. It was dark now. So it's just bit of twilight.
Right.
So maybe we won't need that. I don't know.
No, that's nice. Leave it. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So talk a little about writing this memoir, Rituparna. It's so it has so much, and from the child's perspective, it really makes you wonder, what we do to ourselves when we're children, what we do to our children, really.
That's right, and I think that what you said is it is pretty much the crux of the book. It's not just about the sexual abuse; it's as much about emotional abuse.
Yeah.
And I, as a parent, I've just accepted it. It is failure. You can only do so much. We are human, and we will fail. But those are the best cases. But I had some stats which I had sent in my proposal earlier. According to the BBC, every hour 4 children are abused in India, and we all know it's a lot more than that because that's what's reported. I did not want to write this book. I set out to write something completely else, but as all writers know, you can sit and work on something else, and something else decides to show up. Every time I'm on the page, I don't know what the next sentence will be, and that's why this memoir reads like a novel. Everybody tells me that we cannot tell, and it's important to have facts and figures, kind of nonfiction, but we never know what goes on inside people, the interior lives. And I hope this book says that what it's like, because you're growing up, you think this is absolutely normal. You don't know how to process the world, and then as you grow more and more, you say, oh, it's not, everybody else is not like that. So mine is still a journey of healing, and it's and I think those stories are very rare. And there is a chapter, I think it's called The Obsidian Fishbowl, if I in part 3, where there are so many people around me who are discussing their abuse, just like, I don't know, they're discussing the weather or something. They're just aunties. It shocked me that, and they thought, oh, there's a teenager. It's like I wasn't even there, and so it really shocked me that it's so rampant, and what's being done to protect our kids. And I'm sorry to say, but in India, we actually I don't think want is a correct word, but the culture says, oh, auntie ke uncle ke godi mein baith jao, auntie ke godi mein baith. Any stranger will pull your cheeks, and of course the kid doesn't know you. How does a kid know who is safe, who isn't?
Right.
And that's where, and animals, they are very physical by nature. They want to hug, they want to kiss. So those issues are all there, and I think we must respect children's boundaries, and not just go around kissing random kids' cheeks and pulling their cheeks. That's how it starts, because the child really doesn't know what goes to where.
Right.
So
but Rituparna, your experiences are so intense, and just recovering them. I know recovering your memory is a very deep and it can be a very deep and lonely process. How was it for you? Because when you were going through it as a 6-year-old, especially, You didn't understand what was happening to you. Keep referring to the tentacle, and you keep
Yes.
talking about the pain, but you can't understand what's going on. So, at what point did you start realizing that this had actually happened to you, and what triggered it? It's not quite clear.
I would be giving the book away, but it
Yeah,
happens in pieces because so much of this book is about growing up.
yeah,
It didn't just one day dawn on me that,
right,
oh, this is how it happened. To give a completely different example, I'm forgetting the name, but there is this Ethiopian supermodel in Britain who would think genital mutilation is very normal. And then her roommates, told her, oh, what are you doing? Or something, and she was like, oh, this didn't happen to you. So she had her that epiphany as an adult, and then that was one flash. But for children who are growing up, it doesn't happen like that.
right.
First it's a secret in her life, and that's why the book had to be intense. It isn't just my story, because apart from those, there are like 50, I've lost count, I think it's about 50 people who've come to me and shared their stories, and I think they were sensing something like this, and they have not healed. How can they? The modern world makes it impossible to, and the book is as much about emotional abuse, uh, because I think that is the harder thing. Constantly you feel betrayed, you feel abandoned, you cannot trust anyone, and you're just so little. How so you
Yeah,
grow up that way. You grow up not trusting anybody. And so a lot of these grown-ups who have these inner children who are still abused, and they don't know whom to trust. And I think part of the adolescent years in the book talks about that very briefly,
yeah,
because I wanted the focus to be more on what goes on with children inside. So when you grow up not trusting the people who are supposed to be protecting you, how do you trust yourself? That's and then the journey, you have to like go really lose it, almost go mad, if you will, and then you realize you can only trust yourself. And it's not in a way of distrust, but that's what I saw. My world is very open now. I literally trust almost everybody, because after the healing, that's why the book wasn't as traumatic for me to write as I thought it would be, because I had lived it already. But still, I think a bit of the adolescent years were, but it was, not the sexual abuse, it was the abandonment and the isolation, the emotional abuse, all of that.
And Rituparna, the most striking thing about it is also the forgiveness. And I think that comes so hard to so many people, without giving too much away, when you sort of have dinner with your early tormentor, and the relationship you have with him later. It's so difficult to forgive, isn't it?
It's impossible, and therefore there is a line there which says that it can only happen when the person has died or when there is a physical distance from
Yeah,
them. But then you realize, and there's also, I think, a line there that it's not about the abuser at all. It's about you. It's the most selfish thing you can do in the world. It doesn't mean what they did was okay, but you cannot live in this hell.
yeah,
It, and every single second of your life, you know you've got to raise yourself. You got to parent yourself, and all that energy is going into uh, you know just hating and resenting what all happened. We have to leave the past behind at some point. And it is honestly the only way to move. So forgiveness is absolutely selfish, and you cannot force it. It just, and that's why I think the forgiveness chapter is probably the most important chapter, because that's what distinguishes this from, there's so many there are quite a few books in the West, on abuse, but none of them are about this. They are just about the bitterness and the hurt. And this is what I say, that even if your assaulters were hanged, we have, Me Too, and this bitterness, and these are adults, so it's a completely different story. You still, had certain resources, and so much, but when you're a kid and you grow up that way, that's the only manual you've had to process. So then if you don't forgive, you really cannot function. How to go to work? How do you make it out of your bed? All the mental illnesses just come
yeah,
pouring in.
absolutely.
So so it isn't about the abuser, and you cannot if you are just living with them. You
Yeah.
have to be physically away. And I've not named anybody
Yeah.
for that reason. There is no bitterness. And I don't know, there have been some pretty surreal experiences which, taught me a lot of things. And I would never tell anybody, go on and, forgive your abuser. That's the most abusive thing you can do to yourself. It's
Right.
just that you reach a breaking point where, nothing, nothing else will do. That's the only way to set yourself free. And only when you reach that point can you, uh, say that, okay, I'm done here. I want to live the life that I came to live. And
Did
that's one of the last lines in my acknowledgements as well to the
did
readers.
it help that you were in California, which has a culture of talking about these things, of bringing these to the forefront?
I came here very early. I think I what America did is, I wouldn't call this America. I don't think the Bay Area is America because it's just such a happy bubble. I can walk on the streets at midnight. I mean, any Indian woman knows that's like luxury. I don't. I mean, and as a brown person in the middle of whatever the climate is right now, but the openness. Everybody is very. They talk about their feelings. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know about you, but my parents in a certain generation in India, we never told our kids, "I love you." We never,
Yeah.
that I'm proud of you. And here, this is happening every 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
in America, we talk, not in America, in California, we talk about the feelings of our pets, of our plants. Like it's
Yeah.
so. I think I think I'm after having been through both extremes, I'm at somewhere balanced right now. But that definitely helped. I found that people here to be immensely kind and open and non-judgmental, and it's only because the society is a lot freer. Um, that helped, but also the isolation in this part is so extreme that it forced me to face the isolation that was already there before. So I don't think this could have happened. The kind of space I'm forced to give to myself, your life becomes a meditation. You're
Hmm.
forced to confront every shadow. You just cannot escape. There's just and I think in quarantine, a lot of people found that very difficult to be
Yeah.
with themselves, and we found it a breeze because this is how life is, all the time. And if you see in the book, it's a kind of lifelong quarantine. You're
Yeah.
living within yourself.
Yeah.
So I actually love the quarantine, horrible as it sounds. Obviously, we want the virus to go away,
Right.
but because yeah, so California helped a lot. But I think you can find that place anywhere. If it just gets so bad, even in India, you don't need to just run off to the mountains or
Hmm.
holiday. It's just so bad that you have no other option but to deal with it. And I think meditation helps a lot because you're not denying anything. You're facing whatever form. For me, writing is the biggest form of meditation.
But
I don't know.
it's interesting you discovered Kundalini in the West.
I had to. This is
Yeah.
hippie
Yeah,
haven.
which is really like like an inverted Indianness travel to the West some time
That's
ago, and an Indian rediscovers her Indianness through the West. It's an
that.
interesting proposition, but
It,
that seemed to have helped a lot.
I think it would never have helped me in India because I was an atheist. I still have a very, I don't know, I can't subscribe to labels, but I was a staunch atheist. So even if it came, I'd be so shut off. And also, I think yoga and all these things come from gurus and ashrams, and it's not something that appeals to me. That I can give away my decision and whatever
Autonomy.
else is in charge of me or whatever the equation is.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
was
you obviously treasure your freedom and your autonomy. I think it's been so hard won.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what this book is about. It's not about, people think it's about forgiving this, other person like Jesus Christ. Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. No, it's about being absolutely human. And
Mm.
I don't want to use, the expletive words, but it's gotten so awful that you just want to be free because even if you're in a prison, you're in solitary confinement. It doesn't matter because life has been that way. And whoever meets me, they are very shocked because they think I'm a very, just a very light-hearted, a very, very light person. So, and I think that is testimony to that. Once you decide freedom is yours, you can, but you just have to let the past go. It's just a story, and you can choose your story. It's like method acting that
Right.
way. You let go of that identity and you choose, no, this is
Right.
what I want to become.
In fact, you say there's a lovely line there. You say, life is art. When you let go of your story and live in the now, infinite possibilities show up. I think that's really key to the book. But Rituparna, what is it if uh, if the person who's suffered the abuse doesn't want to let go of that abuse because it has shaped his or her identity to such an enormous degree that that is the only identity that he or she is now comfortable with, and actually he would be nothing without that, and he actually in a way doesn't want to help himself.
Then you just have to, I don't think anybody else can help.
Yeah.
What can help is any form of meditation, swimming, sport, any meditative activity that stops that chatter in your brain. That's why running is so popular.
Yeah.
People say, oh, or there's I call it, what is it called? Like the fitness epidemic in California. Everybody's running. 3 a.m. they're running. But and it's great, but this is what it's coming to. They're quite, all that is quietening the voices in the head.
Hmm.
So so if a person has reached there, if they can find something, then they'll be like, running saved my life, meditation saved my life, yoga saved my life. It's often got to do with the body because it's through the body that we process emotions, but it's got nothing to do with that. It's just that you have managed to quieten your mind, and so briefly you have no identity at that point.
Right.
But I don't think we are one identity. I mean, we are many roles, but if we decide this is it, then that's really sad. So for example, if uh, you know if you are a runner and tomorrow you injure your knee, and you cannot run again, that's, and if that's your only identity, it's going to be extremely
Very
traumatic.
hard.
But
Yeah.
yes, you have to eventually choose something else, and we often see this with a lot of former sports people who become motivational speakers or anything else you choose. So we have to be open. Life is infinite, and we have to welcome everything that comes. I've learned everything through my kid, and I think parenting him externally really helped me because he's extremely emotionally demanding. And so he forced me to give him the presence that I never gave myself. And, I think a lot of it also had to do with the fact that my mom died when I was really
Right.
young. And he always says, oh, I'm your mommy. And that just that, it melts your heart. And, you know, it, it just validates something. So anywhere that love can come from, anywhere you can quieten the voices in your head, will slowly let go of that identity
Right.
that one has formed. But one has to be ready if we have decided we are a survivor and that's what we want to be, because that's the message of this book. It's
Right.
not about surviving and being hard. It's about being gentle and
Right.
loving yourself and going soft.
Right. And love in this climate of hate and polarization and distrust and suspicion, the more the social world connects us, the more it distances us. It's a tough emotion to pick, isn't it? It's easier to pick negativity.
That's right. But also, I think, I know this is, we're on social media, but social media, it's so easy to spread hate there because you're a coward. We don't, not you. I mean, sorry,
Yeah, of
not you.
course.
But I mean,
No, all of
it's
us,
a very, yes, it's very
the
coward
mob.
to just go there, no research, to just say something. Now, in my father's generation, you would sit down and have conversation. You had to really know your stuff. You
Right.
didn't just send a link out of which you read one line and formed a random opinion. And I think it shows how broken this whole generation is, uh, because we don't know, there's because we don't know what to identify with. We are just dying to be identifying with something, and the
Right.
game is one of identity. So,
Yeah.
uh, like the Tanish cat, which just got whatever. Some
Absolutely.
people have decided to put their identity into one form of hate. As long as we have the other, there's going to be, yeah.
Do you see that in America currently, Rituparna? You have a very important election coming up, and
Yes.
really, it is going to be a choice between love and hate at the end of the day.
Right. I don't even know where to begin. Uh, yeah, well, we wish and we hope, but at the end of the day, we have to see what is it that I can do minute to minute, because this book is so much about life, literally minute to minute.
Yeah.
Whoever is in power, Trump, Modi, Biden, Harris, whoever wins, it is, of course, that's a whole different issue. But because your day-to-day life, your 5 minute to 5 minute life is not often dictated by the government. Yes, it will dictate a lot of things, but how your inside is a whole different issue, and that's something we have to take responsibility for. We cannot just throw it
Abandoned.
on
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah. And
Actually, I live in an earthquake and a fire zone. We have so
oh
many
yeah.
wildfires, and we have had to not evacuate, but like run out this a fire, and we need so little. And I literally have a list. It seems very long, but I have it already. My computer is always in my bag. I write a lot by hand, so my current notebooks are always in my hand, in there. And I'm not identifying with my old journal, so I'm okay if they burn in the fire. That's again another question of identity. I know people who will like carry truckloads of their journals, because a lot of people journal here. I run a writers meetup, and they are very attached to it. And of course, but that's not my identity. I'm like, I try to be like my kid. Now I'm Batman, and now I'm a wolf, and now I'm a bad guy, and now I know this whatever angelic superhero is. So I try to learn from that, and it has been extremely liberating. All the lessons lie in childhood, in
Right.
nature. So I think that has gotten, coming back to the point, wildfires, earthquakes, it makes life very crystal clear. This is what I need to survive if everything I know burns away. And as you can see in this book, I've kind of become a pro at that
Right.
internally. So um, so when it comes to government or anything else, we have to take responsibility for how we feel minute to minute. Of course, there's something we cannot control, but to let our mental health go down the drain, I don't know. I only listen to the news like 10 minutes a day. Um, I'll go mad. I won't be able to write otherwise. It can drive anyone insane.
Yeah. What uh, Alice in Wonderland was a huge influence. And talk a little about the Water Phoenix, the title.
Okay, so I'm so and my little girl's heart just is jumping in joy because you mentioned Alice in Wonderland. I love that book so much growing up, and I had various versions, the comic book version that was tattered, and often it was the only thing I had. I didn't know where I was going to spend the afternoon very often because I didn't have a mother, and in
Yeah.
small towns there were no creches or anything. The important thing about Alice in Wonderland is, just like I figured from different age to different age, that this also had been abused, also this could happen, and then various layers of it. I discovered the various layers of Alice in Wonderland, and I think now I realize how messed up it is. There's this little girl going through horror after horror after
Right.
horror, and it's actually a horror story. And
Right.
I doubt if it would have been even published today. I mean, and that's the beauty of it. It's cute and it's horrific, but she's supposed to behave throughout it all, and
Yeah.
that's the burden of childhood. You, as in we, whoever is the child, is
Yeah.
supposed to behave no matter what, with everybody else dictating in an uncertain world. She's all alone. I felt I was a lot like Alice, but my favorite person is the Cheshire cat because he can disappear and
Yeah.
reappear. So,
But
uh, yeah.
what about the Water Phoenix?
So, well, my dad was in the railways, and he was posted in a small town called Nandurbar, which didn't even, the dialect wasn't even Marathi; it was Khandeshi.
Mm.
And there were these lovely old British yeah, bungalows, and it was just glorious. I didn't appreciate it then; I do today.
Mm.
And we were just very. I was very free in that railway colony. I could run anywhere within that neighborhood, so it was really idyllic and a most perfect childhood in the beginning. And there was this peacock I used to chase
Mm.
because it's not a city. There were random animals all the time, and there are tons of random animals throughout the book. So this peacock I used to chase, and there was this big people tree, and my first memory is of looking up at the people tree. Because I've been an insomniac since I was little, and I don't know. I don't know what the causes are, but so I was very hypnotized by the people tree. And then I used to see that this peacock always runs into the tree. And when you look up at any tree and if the sun is bright, you often cannot see what is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It looked golden and it seemed to be moving as if you stare at the sun, there's a slight movement to the air in front of it. And then I thought, oh, it lives there. So then as I grew again, it was a little bit of processing it. So then I figured, oh, so it's actually a golden lake. Oh, so it rises out of this golden lake, but the gold light is from a ball of fire. So it's like a, and then I figured, then I learned what a phoenix was because I was reading a lot.
Right.
So I was like, oh, so it's a phoenix, but it's coming out of this golden liquid lake. So it's a water phoenix. And I was so fascinated.
Right.
So so that's my earliest memory of that peacock I used to chase, who was
Right.
the water
Right.
phoenix.
So, are you the phoenix?
I think we all are. We all
Yeah.
are fighting our battles. But I guess I am also a water phoenix because
Yeah.
I'm not so much about fire as much as about diving
Right.
into infinite depths of the oceans within us and processing every emotion, no matter how dark or ugly. I'll face it. I'm not going to judge it as good or bad. And it's all part of the human experience because I've had some pretty surreal experiences which shook all my ideas about everything we've been told about what reality is. It's not as solid. Um, and that's all there in the book.
Yeah.
So,
You also talk
yeah,
about schizophrenia.
I beg your pardon?
You also talk about schizophrenia.
Yeah, absolutely. So, mental illness is mental health, mental illness is, it just goes hand in hand from the beginning till the end.
Right.
Um, and it literally is, I don't go too much into it, and I don't want to give too much of the book away
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, schizophrenia, I don't know, my, uh, there was this book, I'm in the Big Home by Jerry
Yeah.
Pinto. Have you read it?
Yes. Yes.
It's absolutely moving.
Right.
It's about this mother, but it's also about mental institutions and all of that. But that is a that is a book completely about schizophrenia. Here, I don't go into the depths of it, but yes, it can. It's absolutely maddening when you have been as rational as I am. I used to interview scientists. You can imagine the level of rationality, and I had to let it all go. I realized I couldn't anymore,
Right.
so I did not agree with so much, and I still do not relate to organized religion in any way. So I don't know where that puts me. But there were those
Hmm.
shades of schizophrenia that kind of, you know, um, I'm trying not to give too much of the book away, so it's
Yeah.
becoming a little difficult to answer.
Yeah, but I
But
also want people to know what is in the book to a certain extent because it really is a very difficult journey. And I want people to understand that it's something that you've undertaken and you've come through to the end. And of course, it's never the end. There's always, life can be one ending trauma.
yeah,
But I think to give
there's a
yourself
lot.
yeah, but to give yourself the tools to live it, I think that's the most important thing. And I want people to understand that it may not be a self-help manual, but sometimes it reads like that. And it's a very interesting way of actually telling the story of your own growth and actually coming to terms with so much in your childhood, in your adulthood as well. So sometimes it almost reads like uh, a manual. This is actually how you should conduct yourself. But
That's
of
what the
course,
world
that
tells us. The
sorry,
world tells the world gives us a manual as well. This is how
yeah.
we are supposed to be. This is a
But
type
we
of
all
girl
have
you're.
to find our own manual.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a memoir, so I don't know what else it could be.
of course.
Uh, and we're seeing autofiction come up so much. I actually wanted this to be autofiction, but everyone said, no, it's such a powerful story. We don't
Yeah,
have any healing almost. I wish I could have read a book like this when I was a
right.
teenager. There still aren't. And I'm still seeing people. I know somebody who's, one drug after another and it happened later. I consider myself super lucky that it happened to me so early on, because when it happens to you in teenage, then it's a lot harder um, to
Why
let
is
go.
that?
Still had my magical way of viewing it, and that's why the magic realism is so critical. And I think that saved me. My imagination literally saved my life. So.
Why does it become so much harder in your teenage years, Rituparna?
Well, and there is, there are chapters that deal with the whole what teenage is. There's so much pressure that now you're this adult. There are all these responsibilities,
Right.
and I mean teenage is relative because I know some 11-year-olds who I find hard not to converse as if they are 17. So it's mental rather than a chronological thing. Um, and then at the same time you're still this child and you're still vulnerable and there's so much going on and your body, I mean, you get periods, you develop breasts, you don't know, I mean, for boys I guess they start growing hair, you it's a huge identity shift, you don't know who you are, it's absolutely a crisis. I am shocked that nobody breaks down openly. I'm shocked teenagers are allowed to drive. Here they take tests when they're 16 and then they're like, oh, they had um, this accident and all of that. Then there are all these exams that come to you. I honestly feel it's the hardest part of one's life
Yeah.
because when you're a kid, there are other things. When you're a grown up, you're like, okay, I can figure this out, or you've figured out your defenses and everything. But when you're a teenager, and there are so many expectations. So there's all of this, and then I think that energy just goes out, and we often, if you're already broken or whatever it is, uh, and if we have been abused, it becomes really hard to do anything else because that becomes like a north star or a compass around which, yes, I will survive, I will get through this, yes. But I don't know, look at how that is also a form of hate in a way. You did that to survive, but at some point you have to just break down and let it go,
Yeah.
from the burnout, and only from the ashes does the phoenix come
Absolutely.
every single time.
Right.
So
Have
not from
you?
walls and rocks and mountains.
Yeah. Have you also helped Rituparna, other people
Yes,
sort of come to terms
yes,
with
a
abuse,
lot.
with trauma? You have.
Yes, but very, very informally. And I think
Right.
that's where the difference was versus going to, people have told me this because I've never had a therapist. And if you have, because everything was so internal, I couldn't talk about it. There's nothing in the world better than a great therapist, but people
Right.
also get attached to their therapists.
Right.
Some people have told me this. I'm not saying this with everybody. Like in India, people are like, oh, we don't have enough therapists, but there's nothing worse than a therapist who's not the right fit for you. It's like a marriage.
Yeah.
If it's the right fit, it's the worst thing, and it's your mental health, you're at your most vulnerable. So there are honestly, I've lost the count of people I've been counseling on and off my whole life, actually since I was 11. And I don't know why I didn't become a therapist myself. I didn't have the confidence. I failed at everything. Writing was the only thing I got good marks at. I would work the hardest and I would struggle. And I have such a, it's so ironic how abuse shapes everything. And the biggest of it was confidence because America gave me that. And I volunteer at my kid's school. He goes to a school run by the government and parents. And I see how these kids are, the teachers tell them, hello, writers, hello, mathematicians. So they already know, they have it all. And then the way the scientists open up to them when we go on field trips, and here we were the reverse. So for someone who's already so broken, how do you know, and to almost fail at physics and then to come here and interview physicists is like life's biggest irony. So and so I think holding on to your essence if you have been abused is the most important thing, and anyone can reach out to me. I hope the last few chapters help
Yeah.
people
I think.
because I think, yeah.
I think they will, and I think especially young people. I think they'll really relate to that. The other thing that struck me was the uncle who actually saved you. Who was a sort of special needs uncle. I think those
Yeah,
days,
yes,
it wasn't quite
yeah,
ever diagnosed. And in fact, I think every Bengali family, especially if you read Siddharth Mukherjee, it suggests that there, not to
gene.
generalize, but there's always one mad uncle, one mad
We're
aunt.
so open about our eccentricities, not so
Yeah,
much,
which is,
but
but it's actually very good. It's actually
yeah, it's
very good
necessary.
because it makes you very non-judgmental. Unlike other communities in India, I'm sorry to say, but Bengalis are far more open and far more non-judgmental. I think because they allow their eccentricities to be open. Whereas in
Right.
other families, being dysfunctional is really like a shameful secret. Bengalis are quite happy to, you know,
But
accept
I'm
it.
more and more we're seeing. I love Bengali movies for that reason. I'm
Yeah,
like, this is way ahead of anything, because they're also very kind, very kind in their humanity.
yes,
When we admit that we are dysfunctional, how can we not be dysfunctional? I mean, it baffles me. How can anyone not have a panic attack or an anxiety attack? Just look at daily life. Look at
absolutely.
daily modern life. How cut off we are from nature,
Yeah,
how we want to show pictures of, oh, we're on holiday and there are these pristine mountains and a cup of tea, and we live for that holiday. So that means the rest of it is just one thing. It's like Churchill said, his definition of history was one damn thing after another. That's to a
right.
personal history too, not just world history. It's one battle after another. So we are all dysfunctional. Let's just face our humanity and
Right.
not yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so what I was saying was that it was very interesting that it was that uncle who actually
yeah,
told your father. And I
yeah.
love that. It's so right.
And I'm trying hard not to cry because I didn't know. And as a kid, you're looking up to what others are doing, and
Yeah,
everyone did judge him as this underdog and
yeah,
a loser. And he passed away, and I discovered it so late. And it it I just wish he was alive. And I cannot even. And I'm sorry, and I'm really trying not to tear up. I cannot even imagine if I would have made it had I not had I not been out of where I was at that age. So
no, I think that's
I
really,
think that was the biggest escape. So
and
that's it.
that's such a moving part of the memoir.
Yeah, and even after all this evening, I'm sorry. We, it's just really hard because I have no bitterness, but yeah. So
Great. Sorry to do that, but
no, I didn't know. See, this is how healing is. I'm sorry that no matter how much you forgive it, it's something's always going to be there. It's not bitterness at all.
yeah.
um, but
Oh, I think I firmly believe crying is good. It's
yeah, I just don't. I cry every day, but I think we need to let it out, but on camera.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wish I could have thanked him. So
Yeah. Rituparna, let's talk a little about the first book, which was, I mean, we're going into a completely different space, but
fine. Yeah, that's fine.
An Ordinary Life,
Yeah,
which was on Nawazuddin Siddiqui. Fascinating character, but it led
absolutely.
to so much controversy. Tell me how you handled it, because I felt everything in it was so true and so authentic,
Yes.
but then it got mired in so many different controversies. I felt really bad about it.
Yeah, and a lot of my hard work. I was there for 6 months, and it was a lot getting it done. See, the book, since you've read it, is
Yeah,
not about film star, and it was an emotional story. If this person who's fainting on the streets of Goregaon and that whole part of Bombay out of hunger, because now he cannot even afford his earlier staple diet of tea and parle ji,
yeah,
can become who he is today only because he stayed true to his craft and
exactly.
became a master of his craft.
Right.
If he can make it, anybody can, and our country really needs those stories. And you won't believe it, Kaveri, even now I'm not very active on social media. Even now on Twitter, random, in fact, just 3 or 4 weeks ago, randomly people will DM me. So I'll tell you the last story. This Marathi theater troupe, who said, oh, we really want to translate it into Marathi. And I was like, I don't even know where to begin. You have to talk to Penguin and everything. And it really moved me because it's such a dark space. All other actors around were committing suicide, and it's so
Yeah,
depressing. And this guy made it. That's a story the youth of India need badly. Just stay true to who you are. Where there's
exactly.
nepotism in every field. Bollywood is just on top. I cannot. I'll even journalism. I mean,
Yeah,
there were which doesn't even pay much, and there were everybody who knows it. I mean, my dad was not in that field, but we had other kids, were like, oh, my dad was this editor, so they were given these stories. And so it came, so nepotism exists everywhere. And the funny part is somebody sent something on Twitter where Osama bin Laden's son is making waves in whatever. So even in terrorism, there's nepotism now. Yeah, it's hilarious. Um, so, the book was genuinely moving. Those were 2 or 3 pages.
Yeah.
And I think there were so many other things. There were so many characters that were mentioned. And that I don't think the book should have been withdrawn, but it wasn't my call to take. And then and you know how Bollywood is, it's really hard to get through. I'm sitting here, I've done all my research there, then writing here, and so many people telling you what to do. But I don't know, I still hold by the book. I think it's a stunning book. I think it's a very necessary story. But if somebody feels the need to withdraw a book because they feel it offended someone in this age where even a sneeze can offend anybody, I don't know. I hold by the book absolutely. But there was a one of the people who had done something, wrote a big piece in Hindustan Times, and even questioning my journalism skills without knowing anything. And I was like, this is women coming after women, saying it was me too when it was just a relationship gone bad.
Yeah.
And that just showed me how anyone can use anything, and I don't know. I mean, there are a few pages, but I think we could have done something. Nobody wanted to offend anybody. The criteria is something else altogether.
Right.
To me, it's just a tragedy that something I personally worked the hardest on, because I had to chase him and literally stalk him, and that's why you can see he's coming through very, very strongly. And then he was in Hindi, so I don't know. I think after that, I decided I'm not writing on any celebrities, uh, on anybody with fragile egos and whatever it is. We all have it, but if we cannot stand by our own life stories, then who am I to say it? Because I think it's a beautiful book. And the fact that people have written saying, I was suicidal, I'm not now. Thank you for writing this book. People have no idea about in broken English, or, that to me says everything, that it's a great loss, not just to the person whom the book is about, but to India, to the young people of India, because this is a book everybody would have read.
And
This was.
especially now, Rituparna, I felt after the Sushant Singh Rajput death, here was one man who just did not give up. I mean, there was
Yes,
so
that's what
much
the.
there was so much that sort of stood in his way. He just didn't. And I think
Yeah.
it's a tribute to his both his craft as well as his intelligence and emotional
Yes.
intelligence. So I really felt that that was a loss.
Yes.
How did you choose him, or did he choose you? How did that happen? How did the process of the book happen?
Was very interesting how it happened. And actually, Scroll had done a story on it. Nandini Ramnath had, interviewed me for it. Um, well, the thing is, I was on maternity leave, and just before I was going through the mental health that is there in the water phoenix,
Yeah,
just before the breakthrough, and I saw this movie called Talash,
right.
and I was really struck. And now I have a very good way of just, as you know, I'm trying to shift identity, so
Yeah,
I'm quite good at just deleting things from my mind. So I'm finding it hard to remember what his name was. Temur, I think. I cannot remember, but he was this beggar, and he was just very creepy. He gave me, Oria from David Copperfield kind of vibes a little bit, and I was just in awe. Who is this person? Because I had cut off. So I have not owned a TV for 20 years, and the only newspaper I used to read was the Financial Times, and I was very, very particular about where I spend my energy, because as you can see, the journey has been
yeah,
so. That's why I cannot comment on everything that happens on Twitter. There are enough people. Like I just,
absolutely.
yeah,
Too
and
much energy wasted.
right, and yeah, and it's helping so much with the novel that I'm now writing. So I cannot remember the details, but it just captivated me, and I was anyway doing a story on back then. Masan and all had just come out, and what that was doing to cinema in India. We have always had art films, but they never had this reach before of reaching the public, as well as globally. So it was,
Yeah.
and very, very short budget film. So I met and I interviewed, and then I said, why don't we do a book together? And then my editor Premanko from Penguin happened to get in touch, and he was just saying, why don't you do it on this, on that? And I had been a columnist for Dear Cinema before, which was India's first world cinema portal, and I'd just written on film in general before. So I met him and I pitched the idea to him. I think when you're at that level, you're so vulnerable. It's very hard to trust who comes, and I just came out
Yeah.
of nowhere. But I
Right.
think I was very honest and endearing, and I think that really got to him, that I had no agenda. I wasn't a film critic. I was so cut off from the world of Bombay and Bollywood. I think that is what he agreed to,
Right.
and it was wonderful because as you can see, he's completely different in the book than what you see. He's just such a beautiful person, and um, just the whole family and Budhana and all of
So
that.
you went everywhere. You
I
followed.
did not go to Budhana, but I did accompany him on a shoot, and I was like practically camping at the office. So I mean, I even knew the cat his kid would play with, the stray cat, and it was very, very, very interesting. It was yeah, great fun.
Right.
And then in between, because the difference between him and I don't know, Rishi Kapoor and the others is that they have grown. She has just begun his,
Right. Yeah.
starry career. So he was shooting nonstop, and there was really the only way was to accompany him on the shoot, and that was an absolutely marvelous experience. So
Yeah.
in between, he would have these hours which he couldn't in Bombay, and obviously anybody who wanted to sign him for a film about crows would get, uh, precedence over me, who has nothing to offer.
Yeah.
So it was really, really lovely, and then I also got to interview his family, and that really helped, his
Right.
brother, everybody. So it's a loss. It's a huge loss to India
Yeah.
that the book was
I
withdrawn. I think
wish they
it
do
should have.
something about it.
It's up to him, and I don't know if he's watching this, but I know you've interviewed him. So
Yeah.
bring it up. I would love to just edit it out, because nobody meant to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Nobody mentions about that, especially when you read a book like that.
Right.
It literally, I had an agenda with it, which was to show that this guy can make it. We all can,
Absolutely.
and just stay true to your craft. Become a master at it. You don't need to chase anybody. It'll just come, because it ends where he becomes a star. It
Yeah.
doesn't go into it. So
Right.
yeah,
What are you working on now, Rituparna?
I'm finding it very hard to talk about it. It is a novel, but every time I think I've not gotten that far, about 30,000 something words right now. So I don't know. I've
How
just
many words was Water Phoenix?
I think 78. I don't like to write more than, if I can control it. I don't know what's going to happen. More than 80,000, because I love Joyce Carol Oates, and I like a lot of those, writers, but their books are like 1,000 pages,
Yeah.
and that's too much, and I land up never finishing them.
Right.
So I
So
think
can you talk a little about what you're writing on?
that book is based in California. It's, I think, more about, it's set in the political climate right now. I don't think I can say anything more, because I don't know how it's going to shape up, but it's got a lot to do with the alienation and isolation of motherhood in America. It's such a sham. Everybody's always very Barbie doll-like, and very sweet and perfect and happy, and where everybody's on medication. I'm not saying we need it, but we needed to get through this life. So that's just one of the themes, the isolation of American motherhood.
Is it a Big Little Lies from the Indian point of view?
From, I think the Indian point of view, what do you mean? Like motherhood in India?
No, it's like a Big Little Lies written by an Indian.
I don't know. I cannot. No, I cannot put myself into any category, especially because I don't even know. I haven't even finished the first draft yet. But that's the joy of creating any art. I also do watercolors, and I never know what I'm going to paint, because I'll come with all these ideas and then it's something else altogether. So it's the same with my writing, and you'll see it flows. I don't know. I write at a sentence level. I don't outline and plot. So for example, we just bought a house in the middle of pandemic, I know, and moved. We just had to, because we lost all our outdoor spaces. I live at libraries. So so the other place where we were at was a historic neighborhood, and I did not know that would be the setting, and I'm discovering such fascinating things about how Silicon Valley started, the history of it from the 1700s. It's just fascinating. It's not a historical. Yeah. Yeah, America is a fairly young country.
Yeah,
That's why I think so much optimism, which is good.
yeah.
It definitely helped me a lot less baggage. But yeah, so it's said there, and I happened to interview this wonderful architect, Rob Mayer, who actually specializes in historic homes, because we were trying to buy one, but the foundations are broken and there's just too many issues. It just expects too much, and the prices are not any cheaper. So then we chose a slightly, not so old,
Yeah.
but I've seen those homes, and they come with strange things like a Steinway or a dumbwaiter. There are these very cool features, and it's just
Yeah.
fascinating. So so right now I'm researching and writing about that part of the
Because,
book.
there's so much literature, which in fact has also become part of entertainment now, whether it's Big Little Lies or Little Fires Everywhere, or indeed the new The Undoing with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. There's so much about this perfect motherhood, and this ambition to sort of have it all and do it all, and it's such a burden on women.
Absolutely a burden, and as if we don't have enough burdens to carry as
Yeah,
it is.
but it's
It's
terrible.
and it's much harder in America, because in India, I mean, I'm not. I think we are more accepting of shadows here. Everybody's so proper. One of the reasons why I'm a loner is that, I mean, they're very kind and very sweet, and they have the best intentions, but I think it's a very, very proper place. And one day I realized, okay, who are my closest non-Indian friends? And I noticed they were all Jewish or they were European. And I think that said a lot, because I could, I'm not, I think it's just, I'm a very open person. I just say it as it is. And I find it very hard to do it with, you know, not with everybody. I'm not saying everyone's like that. I'm just saying what I have seen in my
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
Especially this whole once they become moms, it's okay, I think, in academic circles and certain places, but and Silicon Valley is the most pretentious place ever. Everybody's a billionaire. No one wants to offend anyone. It's just really hard to have a real conversation. So I've had enough. I've covered it for a decade, and I'm like done.
And I don't know what it does to the kids.
So the interesting part about being a kid is, if that is all you know, you do not know it's abnormal.
Right.
So that's what it's so fascinating to me that the humans here are so robotic, and they're so efficient that it's got its perks. It's the only way you can get through if you have such a long list of things to do. That's the only way. And it focuses on independence. Indian society focuses on interdependence.
Right.
There will be, you will have a maid, and that income is possibly the only way she can have a bit of freedom. I mean, I have friends whose maids come and stay because the husband beat them up or something. They have that. If they would have, we all know that there are very close bonds between maids and, the mem saab, if you will.
Which seems very feudal to the rest of the world and
Yeah,
very
but it
exploitative,
isn't.
but it's in a way also very, as you said, interdependent.
Yes. So we are about interdependence. I mean, we don't have to do everything by ourselves, and I think that is wrong, and that comes from a deep fear, because to be interdependent, you have to trust, which
Yeah.
means being vulnerable, which means letting your guards down, and that is very, very scary, because that means you're like nuked out there. So I think it's a huge defense mechanism. Everybody who comes to my writers meetup, not everybody, but a lot of them, America has a medication. It's like an epidemic. Everybody's on anxiety medication, on depression medication. I'm not judging anybody. We need it to get through the day, but I'm talking about the society that created the need for these.
Yeah.
And we will want to do more and more, but once we realize we are enough in who we are, and we're human, and we're dysfunctional, and that's okay, because you see in nature, the mommies are really badass. They,
Yeah.
I had a hummingbird
They,
nest
they,
outside my.
they are the ones who go out hunting. They are the ones who, are really
Yeah, and
ferocious.
they're very strict with their kids. They are not. Yeah. So there was this very cute golden retriever who had just come. The golden retriever mom and the puppies were all over her, and oh god, they're all dying of cuteness. But she just barked at them, and they were like, really, all of them just put those tiny little fluffy, chubby puppies in their places. And I was like, oh my god, that's the best lesson in motherhood I've gotten. And here, it's emotionally abusive. It's this, and I mean, you just can't be right. It's hard not to be suicidal. It's impossible not to get an anxiety attack or a panic attack because of these standards. And to me, that is more patriarchal in many ways than this big, it's whatever emblem of patriarchy that we think India is. I think that's a lot more aggressive. So in India, at least, the focus is on other things for women. And I'm talking everywhere about privileged women. Of course, we are even
Yeah,
privileged
we
in
are
this
privileged, of
conversation.
course. Yeah,
Uh, so so yeah, without a support system, it gets very hard. And my kid sees me break down all the time, and I think that has made him more compassionate. That uh, we are all that even grown-ups fail. I keep telling him, don't chase success, just become okay with failure, because that's how life is.
absolutely.
And then you'll be free. You won't have to put yourself in these boxes and chase, whatever is the latest goal.
That's for the best college, the
Oh, it's endless.
coolest girlfriend. I mean, it doesn't ever end, does it?
No, and whether it is, even if it is just your career milestone.
Yeah, it just goes on.
Yeah, yeah.
Rituparna, do you want to quickly read out a little passage for me from the book?
No, I don't actually have the book with me. I'm sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to read, so I don't have the
Okay.
um I don't have I'll have to pull out the file. Is there anything in particular you'd like me to read? I'll have
Uh,
to.
no, actually, in fact, if you don't mind, I'd just like to read. Uh, Maybe I'll read it. Is that okay, or do you have it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fine. You actually have the proof, and I'm like, oh God, I wish I. Can you show it to me?
No, I
Okay.
want to. I want to just read this. Which is, I think, something that we should say like a prayer every day. It's very short. Your prayer for everyone. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. It's so simple.
Yeah.
But talk a little to me and to our audience about why this can be such a powerful healing mechanism.
So this is the Hawaiian prayer of forgiveness
Yeah.
called Ho'oponopono. And I think I got drawn to it because I'm generally very fond of folk tales and myths, and so I think that's where I subconsciously got drawn to it. Part of the reason why I love Hawaii are all these stories by how a volcano came into being, and all of that. So this this prayer is never about the other person. Just try saying it. You'll be crying buckets and
Yeah.
rivers if you just. So I don't, and it says in the book, I didn't go around seeking a prayer. I'm not a religious person,
Yeah.
and I was a hardcore atheist then. Um, and how I found it, and it says that was this logic, was this Google AI, all the searches that are going on in my head. So I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but it's incredibly powerful. If you just say to yourself, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you, I love you. It's just about yourself. It's not
Yeah.
about the other. There's no God in it at all. You have to just say it, to see the magic, really, how free you will feel. But yeah, keep the tissues handy. A lot of
Thank you
crying.
so much, Rituparna Chatterjee, author of The Water Phoenix, for talking to us all the way from Bay Area, which is going to be the site of your next novel. I look forward to it, and I look forward to An Ordinary Life, your biography of Nawazuddin Siddiqui, also seeing the light of day again. And
Thank you.
thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you so much, Kaveree. It's been an utter pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.